Over the last few months, I've released retrospectives on some titles from Rockstar Games, which helped define late 90s and early 2000s gaming. And while I'm preparing my retrospective on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, I wanted to shine a spotlight on the studio that played a part in bringing games from franchises like Lemmings, Grand Theft Auto, Manhunt, and Red Dead Redemption to life. My name is OneHip, and thanks for clicking on this video. If you've seen any of my Rockstar retrospectives, or even ones from other developers, thanks as always for your support. And if you're new here, welcome in. In this video, I'll explore the history of Rockstar North, a studio that would go on to redefine open world games, generate controversy, and become one of the most influential developers in the industry. This is their story. In 1983, David Jones, a video game programmer and native of Dundee in Scotland, took up an apprenticeship with electronics manufacturer Timex at their local factory. As well as producing timepieces, the factory also built personal computers for Sinclair Research, most notably the ZX Spectrum, which boosted interest in this burgeoning industry. A local hobbyist community would soon emerge, and the group met weekly to share their love for computer programming. After attending Timex-sponsored programming courses at the nearby Kingsway Technical College, Jones joined the college's amateur computer club, where he soon befriended two fellow members, Russell Kay and Steve Hammond. A year later, Mike Daly, a 14-year-old hobbyist, would join the club, completing the group soon after. The four enthusiasts would bond over their shared interest in creating computer games. Over the next 2 years, the group split into pairs to develop and sell games to publishers for their portfolios. 1986 was the year that would change Jones's life forever. Sinclair Research had lost market share, resulting in layoffs by Timex for their Dundee employees. Jones accepted a voluntary redundancy, and after enrolling in computer science at the Dundee Institute of Technology, the original gang joined its computer club. Jones founded his own development studio called Acme Software. He signed a 6-game publishing deal with British game developer Psygnosis. After several name changes and an 18-month development cycle, Psygnosis would release 1988's Menace, a horizontal scrolling shooter similar to titles like Gradius. The game received positive reviews for the original Amiga and Atari ST versions, but criticism for its later Commodore 64 and MS-DOS ports, which were considered inferior to the originals. The company would be renamed DMA Design shortly after Menace's release, with Daly being Jones's first hire in 1989. The rest of the gang followed soon after. 1989 was a busy year for the fledgling Scottish studio, with the release of the MS-DOS port of futuristic sports title Ballistics, the PC Engine port for platformer Shadow of the Beast, and an original title called Blood Money, a side-scrolling shooter. DMA's first office was located in Dundee, above a former fish and chip shop owned by Jones's father-in-law. This resulted in the company expanding their workforce and hiring many students for part-time roles. A programmer and artist who were working remotely from Edinburgh began experimenting with character designs from the delayed title Walker. Daly responded to this by challenging himself to create recognisable characters at half the height of the ones seen in that game. An animated demo showcasing small creatures lining up and being killed for the amusement of his co-workers marked the genesis for one of the most groundbreaking puzzle franchises of that era. Jones and Kay concurred that the design inspired by Daly's demo should lean into the player preventing these characters from being killed. With Kay writing the demo, game designer Gary Timmons developing gameplay mechanics, and Daly and Jones collaborating with the other two for revisions. Lemmings was released for the Amiga on Valentine's Day in 1991. The game's premise was to guide a group of lemmings through various obstacles to the level's exit, while factoring in their herd mentality of aimlessly wandering into fatal hazards. This would be aided by the player assigning limited quantities of 8 different skills to individual lemmings, which would alter their behaviour and the environment around them. Lemmings was released to critical acclaim and commercial success, selling over 20 million copies between its various ports, including on home consoles like the Super Nintendo. Expansions of the original game, Oh No, More Lemmings, and Holiday Lemmings 1993, were released over the next 2 years. A sequel, Lemmings 2 The Tribes, was released in 1993, once again to critical and commercial success. By late 1992, DMA Design had grown to 22 staff, and they relocated to a proper headquarters at the Dundee Technology Park. Russell Kay, one of the original Computer Club gang, left in 1993 to form Visual Sciences. Walker, the inspiration for Lemmings' character design, would see its own release in that same year for the Amiga, receiving praise for its graphics and sound, but criticism for its repetitive gameplay. 1993 also saw the release of role-playing game Hired Guns for the Amiga and MS-DOS after several delays, which were regularly lampooned by British magazine Amiga Power. The game received praise for its multiplayer mode, most notably its friendly fire mechanic, and criticism for its copy protection and inventory management systems. With success came confidence, and with confidence, DMA began saying yes far more often than they should have. Experiencing fatigue from their breakthrough franchise, DMA began research and development for the 3DO home console. After showcasing full motion video emulated from an upcoming Star Wars Super Nintendo game at a trade show, Nintendo themselves took notice. They were seeking multiple development partners for their upcoming Nintendo 64 console's Dream Team. DMA Design announced a lucrative 2-game partnership with Nintendo, resulting in their current headquarters being expanded and all in-house equipment being upgraded. 3DO development ceased immediately, with DMA wishing to work exclusively with Nintendo. Una Races was released on the Super Nintendo in April 1994. A 2D side-scrolling racing game rendered from a 3D model, Una Races received positive reviews upon release, mostly for its fast pace and soundtrack, with criticism for its sound effects and graphics. The game sold less copies than Nintendo had anticipated, ending DMA's winning run. They also faced a lawsuit from Pixar, claiming that DMA copied the unicycle design from their 1987 short film, Red's Dream. DMA lost the case, resulting in Nintendo ceasing further production of the game. Kid Kirby, given by Nintendo to DMA after Jones requested a second chance, was cancelled in 1997 after several delays. In November 1995, 5 DMA staff began development for the second contracted game called Body Harvest, planned for release as a launch title for the Nintendo 64. With the commercial failure of Una Races and their failed lawsuit, DMA had been dealt a significant financial blow. 4 years prior, Daly had been experimenting with ways to render 3D buildings from a top-down camera perspective. This culminated in a 1995 prototype called Race and Chase, where the player was a police officer catching criminals in an open-world setting. British game publisher BMG Interactive were impressed with this, signing DMA to a 4-game deal in March that year, along with Space Station Silicon Valley, Tank Tix, and Covert. Production began on Race and Chase shortly after the deal was announced. This new funding increased DMA's headcount from 40 to 130, requiring further office expansion to 2 adjacent buildings. The new fit-out included motion capture and music studios. Despite the facilities offered, DMA faced a development team of mostly recent graduates with little to no experience, causing a lack of structure and a struggling development cycle for Race and Chase. There were numerous calls from BMG to cancel the game, as developer milestones weren't being met. BMG's Gary Penn was moved to DMA Design to become their creative director and producer, with BMG themselves having no direct involvement in the game's development. This instability also affected Body Harvest, which would miss the Nintendo 64 launch title window due to Nintendo's issues with its violent themes. DMA would once again face financial trouble, with several projects being worked on at once at the behest of Jones, who kept agreeing to projects solely for sign-on bonuses, with no plans to complete them. This desperation showed how much the studio was struggling to keep afloat. DMA Design opened a satellite studio in Boulder, Colorado in November 1996, triggering Steve Hammond's departure from the company. The studio would eventually be spun off as a separate company called Devil's Thumb Entertainment. With Nintendo eventually cancelling Body Harvest and DMA facing down the barrel of closure, Jones agreed to an acquisition by Gremlin Interactive in April 1997 for £4.2 million in order to stay alive. Gremlin were impressed with their 3DMA game engine, and they gave DMA a 2-year window to become profitable. 6 months earlier, and as another way to keep DMA developing games, Jones had sold BMG the rights to what would evolve from Race and Chase, becoming one of the most influential action crime games in history. In the lead up to Race and Chase, now called Grand Theft Auto, BMG hired Max Clifford, a publicist who used the game's controversial subject matter for marketing purposes. Pivoting from its original police concept, the game allowed the player to be the criminal who completes missions for various characters, committing crimes in 3 open-world cities while invading law enforcement. This design change led to calls from several British tabloids to ban the game in that country, with Conservative politician Baron Campbell of Croy addressing their concerns at the UK's House of Lords. This outrage was fuel for Clifford's strategy. Grand Theft Auto was released in November 1997 on Windows, followed by PlayStation and Game Boy Color ports a few months later, to mixed reviews. Its graphics and controls were the subject of criticism, while its sound design and open-world freedom were praised, selling over 6 million copies in its lifetime. 2 expansion packs set in 1960s London, GTA London 1969 and GTA London 1961, were launched in 1999. However, these weren't developed by DMA. GTA's influence diminished the focus on other games commissioned by BMG, and a sequel swiftly entered development. BMG's parent company, Bertelsmann, a German conglomerate, decided to wind up their interactive entertainment branch to reduce costs. After a breach of contract lawsuit from the Liaison and Promotion Company and becoming founding members of the Scottish Game Alliance, both occurring in '97, uncertainty about DMA's future had set in. At the same time, American publisher Take-Two Interactive had been in acquisition talks with Sam Houser, head of development for BMG's production team. Take-Two wished to increase their stake in the growing home video game market. In March 1998, Take-Two acquired BMG Interactive, including the Grand Theft Auto and Space Station Silicon Valley IPs, for $14.2 million worth of shares. Sam, along with his brother Dan and several other BMG executives, would join Take-Two to form the publisher Rockstar Games in December 1998. Shortly before the acquisition, both Space Station Silicon Valley and Body Harvest were released for the Nintendo 64, with a very small marketing budget. The former received high praise for its level design and distinct British humour, which distinguished it from other games, despite selling poorly. And with Gremlin Interactive as publisher for the European release, Body Harvest was released to average reviews, resulting in poor sales and a subsequent takeover of Gremlin by French publisher Infogrames. Body Harvest laid the blueprint for how 3D worlds with a traditional third-person view should work, a concept that DMA would revolutionise a couple of years later. 1999 was a momentous year for DMA. With Infogrames refusing to publish adult titles like Grand Theft Auto, Take-Two acquired DMA in September of that year, taking on its $12.3 million of debt. Mike Daly left DMA to join Kay at Visual Sciences, leaving Jones as the last of the original group. GTA Online Crime World, an online multiplayer game built from Grand Theft Auto's engine, and GTA 3D, a precursor to what came 2 years later, were planned but both cancelled shortly after. In June of that year, DMA developed Wild Metal Country, a tank action sci-fi game, with a Dreamcast port, simply called Wild Metal, released in February 2000. Both versions received mixed reviews, with critics citing repetitive gameplay despite praise for its graphics. Tank Ticks, a strategy game which also involves tanks, was released in October on Windows. It received mixed reviews from critics for its frustrating controls and overwhelming level of micromanagement. Grand Theft Auto's sequel, Grand Theft Auto 2, was released in late October 1999 for Windows and PlayStation, with Dreamcast and Game Boy Color versions released in 2000. Written by Dan Houser, GTA 2 is set in Anywhere City, USA, with the player completing missions for organised crime gangs while gaining their respect, while also committing crimes while pursuing the police. Despite being the first Take-Two game to reach 1 million sales, as well as praise for its soundtrack and gang loyalty system, all versions received a mixed response, with the Game Boy Color port receiving negative reviews. To house former Body Harvest and Space Station teams, DMA established a satellite studio in the city of Edinburgh, within the district of Leith. Notable staff included Leslie Benzies, Aaron Garbett, and Obey Vermey, totaling 25 staff at the new branch. With Edinburgh modelling their next game after 1999 titled Driver, Dundee was working on a Miami-themed expansion for GTA 2. Unhappy with DMA's new ownership, David Jones, the final member of the original Computer Club gang, left to form the game studio Denki, before being hired by Rage Software to oversee their Scottish operations. Leslie Benzies would be promoted to DMA's president, marking a new era in the studio's history. At the same time, Take-Two closed the Dundee studio, laid off most staff, and merged the remaining employees with Edinburgh. This was done to encourage fewer but larger projects, a move that was derided by DMA staff. A proposed merger between DMA, Rockstar Games, and Pixel Broadband Studios was abandoned due to several high-level executives resigning in protest. Despite this rocky transition, the core Edinburgh team crafted a landmark title, one focused on an unconstrained open world, fully 3D graphics, and a third-person perspective. If you're still with me, thanks for being here. I've done retrospectives on some of the games featured throughout this video, and this mini doco is part of a series where I explore the history of various developers, including Neversoft, EA Black Box, and Criterion Games. If you want to see those as well as future content on this channel, be sure to subscribe. Anyway, back to the video. By 2001, everything at DMA Design had changed. With Rockstar Games as their exclusive publisher, DMA's next release needed to justify everything that had been lost. And it delivered. Grand Theft Auto 3 was released on PlayStation 2 in October 2001. It received critical acclaim for its gameplay, sound design, and for Liberty City itself, despite its widespread controversy. Ports were later released for Windows and Xbox, with the Dreamcast version cancelled due to the console's poor sales. GTA 3 was the highest-selling game of that year, becoming a PlayStation 2 bestseller. 12 million copies were sold on that system alone. GTA 3 inspired a number of successful titles from other franchises, spawning the category Grand Theft Auto clones, and it would be the last game released under the DMA Design label. In March 2002, DMA Design was renamed Rockstar Studios, and then Rockstar North 2 months later, fully integrating with Rockstar Games. An online multiplayer component for GTA 3 was planned but eventually scrapped. Rockstar North decided to release GTA 3's planned expansion as a standalone title, one which would improve on the game in every way with a different setting. Grand Theft Auto Vice City was released for PlayStation 2 in October 2002, followed by Windows and Xbox ports the next year. Like its predecessor, Vice City received critical acclaim, with the strongest praise going to its iconic 80s soundtrack, story, and gameplay. While it did receive controversy, it wasn't as intense as what GTA 3 endured. Vice City went on to become one of the most significant titles in the 6th generation of consoles, selling over 17 million copies in its lifetime. A zombie survival game set in Scotland called Z, built on Vice City's engine, entered production shortly after its release. But due to lost traction from the studio, Z was cancelled a month into its development. Controversy would follow Rockstar North into the next year, with the release of Manhunt on PlayStation 2 in November 2003. Versions of the game would once again be released for Windows and Xbox the following year. A third-person stealth game set in the fictional location of Kansas City, Manhunt received positive reviews from critics for its dark tone and visceral gameplay which made it unique, despite some criticism for its level design. The game was refused classification in Australia and banned outright in New Zealand due to its extreme violence, and it was a stark contrast to the satirical angle that the GTA franchise went for. With a budget of $10 million and an additional year of development time compared to Vice City, Rockstar North went bigger with their next GTA installment, while reworking core gameplay and visual elements. At the end of its production, the team moved to Carlton Square, still in the city of Edinburgh. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was released on PlayStation 2 in October 2004, with Windows and Xbox versions released in June 2005, once again to critical acclaim and commercial success. It became one of the best-selling games of all time, with nearly 28 million copies sold overall. San Andreas received several end-of-year industry awards, and despite its hot coffee mini-game controversy, it's considered one of the most significant titles of its era. Ambitious in scope, the game expanded its open world, encompassing the state of San Andreas, with expanded gameplay mechanics, a praised narrative, and a beloved protagonist, CJ. All three GTA titles were bundled and re-released as Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy in 2006, and as a modern compilation called Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy The Definitive Edition, released in 2021. After their groundbreaking work in the first half of the new millennium, Rockstar North provided support to Rockstar Leeds for GTA prequels Liberty City Stories in 2005 and Vice City Stories in 2006. They also provided support to Rockstar London for the even more controversial follow-up to their 2003 release, 2007's Manhunt 2. In that same year, development for the 7th generation of consoles was improving, and as soon as San Andreas was released, Rockstar North began production on the next installment of their now iconic crime series, one that would look inward, to tell a personal story about loss and trauma through a satirical depiction of chasing the American dream. The franchise would return to a city made famous 7 years earlier. Work commenced on the next Grand Theft Auto title, with 1,000 team members worldwide and an estimated $100 million budget. Rockstar North also began working on Agent, a stealth action game inspired by spy franchises like James Bond. This would be the studio's first original IP in nearly a decade. Rockstar announced at E3 2007 that a new and groundbreaking franchise was in development for the PlayStation 3, without mentioning the title. Grand Theft Auto 4 was released on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in April 2008, and for Windows in December. It received critical acclaim, with praise for its narrative, protagonist Nico Bellic, and Liberty City's open-world design. GTA 4 became the fastest-selling entertainment product at the time, making $500 million in its first week, and it also won several industry accolades. Total sales reached 25 million copies in its first 5 years of release, with controversy aimed at some of its violent elements, as well as the ability to drive while drunk. 2 expansion packs for the game were released in 2009, The Lost and the Damned and The Ballad of Gay Tony, both being interconnected with the main story and seen through the eyes of 2 new protagonists. That year also saw Rockstar North provide support once again to Rockstar Leeds, this time for their handheld title, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars. Agent was officially unveiled at E3 2009 during Sony's press conference. Sam Houser stated that Agent was a unique game that Rockstar wanted to make for some time. After several delays and Take-Two's Agent trademark expiring in November 2018, Agent was quietly removed from Rockstar's website several years later. Obi Vermey revealed in an interview that resources shifted from Agent to Grand Theft Auto 5, resulting in its quiet cancellation. For the next 3 years, Rockstar North would provide support to Rockstar San Diego for 2010's Red Dead Redemption and to Team Bondi for 2011's LA Noire. For 2012's Max Payne 3, Rockstar North assisted other teams under the collective group Rockstar Studios, ironically their short-lived former name. Immediately after GTA 4 was completed, preliminary work for their next GTA title took place, with a team of 360 core members within a team of 1,000 workers across Rockstar's studios. After a 3-year development cycle, Grand Theft Auto 5 was released in September 2013 on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, to critical acclaim. Praise went to GTA 5's multiple protagonists, the expanded state of San Andreas, and its gameplay, with controversy generated over its depiction of violence and women. The game broke GTA 4's record to become the most successful entertainment product of all time, reaching $10 billion in sales worldwide. The game would be released on PC and re-released as remastered and enhanced versions over the next 2 console generations. Grand Theft Auto Online, a separate online multiplayer game, was released 2 weeks after GTA 5. Originally set shortly before the events of the original game, GTA Online allows players to complete missions and explore San Andreas, while earning cash to buy items such as safe houses, garages, and vehicles. Despite technical issues at launch, GTA Online became one of the decade's most popular online games. In 2014, Rockstar North moved to a larger office in Barclay House, Edinburgh. In September of that year, Leslie Benzies went on a sabbatical, before suing Rockstar Games 2 years later for withholding $150 million in royalty payments while he was absent. Despite a counterclaim from Take-Two Interactive, the parties eventually settled, and the case was dismissed in early 2019. Benzies would go on to create his own studio called Royal Circus Games, later renaming it Builder Rocket Boy. With recent government tax credits for the local video game industry, Rockstar North had sufficient funds for their next project, with all Rockstar studios acting as one team for it. North's headcount had grown to 650 employees. After 8 years of development, Red Dead Redemption 2 was released for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in October 2018, and a year later for PC. Widely considered one of the greatest games ever made, critical praise went to its open world, gameplay, story, and protagonist, Arthur Morgan. It went on to win several industry awards, including multiple Game of the Year nods, becoming the 4th best-selling game of all time with 79 million units sold. Despite Red Dead 2's success, Rockstar employees were reporting significant crunch during its development, with claims of 100-hour working weeks and mandatory unpaid overtime. What had been reported was just the tip of the iceberg for the controversies that Rockstar Games, and Rockstar North in particular, would face in the next decade. 2021 saw Rockstar North buy Barclay House, becoming its sole tenant and expanding their office space a year later. After years of speculation, Rockstar Games confirmed in February 2022 that their next Grand Theft Auto game, GTA 6, was in development, with an official reveal in December 2023. The game would be set in the state of Leonida, based on Florida, with an expanded Vice City. In September 2022, unfinished versions of the game were leaked online, in what was described as the biggest in gaming history. 90 videos showcasing 50 minutes worth of in-progress footage were released, with sources confirming that the content was genuine. Take-Two issued takedown notices against those discussing the leaks online, with Rockstar claiming the leaks were a network intrusion. Subsequent smaller GTA 6 leaks have been released since then, making the title the most anticipated in video game history. After several delays, it's due to be released in late November 2026. On October 30th, 2025, Rockstar Games fired 31 studio employees, mostly from Rockstar North, claiming that public discussion and distribution of confidential information took place, particularly regarding GTA 6. The Independent Workers' Union of Great Britain accused Rockstar of union busting, stating that those who were terminated had attempted to form a union with its organisers over Discord. The firings sent shockwaves across the UK and the gaming industry at large, with several politicians, including British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, expressing concerns about what occurred. The IWGB issued legal claims against Rockstar in November, citing that Rockstar refused to meet with the union. The case is ongoing as of this video's release. With anticipation at an all-time high and controversy still unfolding, Rockstar North enters its next chapter with its future unwritten, and its legacy very much still in progress. Rockstar North's legacy is often simplified to a single franchise, but that isn't the complete picture. Long before Grand Theft Auto reshaped the industry, this was a studio defined by experimentation, one that moved between genres with little concern for convention. From Lemmings to Body Harvest, their early work showed a willingness to take risks that many studios of the era avoided. What followed was not just success, but also transformation. As open worlds grew in scale and ambition, Rockstar North became synonymous with a particular kind of design philosophy that prioritized player freedom and worlds that felt alive rather than staged. That approach didn't just influence competitors, it reshaped expectations across the industry. But legacy isn't built on innovation alone. Over time, the studio evolved from a small independent team into part of a global production machine, operating at a scale few developers ever reach. With that growth came new pressures like longer development cycles, higher expectations, and scrutiny that extended far beyond the games themselves. The cost of making landmark titles became more visible and harder to ignore. Today, Rockstar North exists in a very different landscape to the one it emerged from. It's a studio whose work is anticipated well in advance, whose internal decisions are debated publicly, and whose influence is undeniable. Its impact can be seen not only in the games it's made, but in how open-world design is approached across gaming. Whether viewed as pioneers, agitators, or industry giants, Rockstar North's place in gaming history is secure. Yet its story resists a clean conclusion. As expectations grow and the industry continues to change, the question of what defines its legacy remains open and shaped by how much it moves forward, as by what it's already achieved. Thanks for watching. What's your favourite Rockstar North title? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming content, including my upcoming San Andreas retrospective. And if you're planning to grab your next PC game or bundle, consider using either of my affiliate links for Fanatical and Green Man Gaming in the description. This doesn't cost you any extra. Thanks as always for your support. Thanks also to my current channel members for supporting me further. There are links to this and my Ko-fi donation page in the video's description. Be sure to watch my Rockstar Games retrospectives I've released in this playlist here, but only if you want to. My name is OneHip, and you have a good one. Bye!